we save this amount, the green part here, you see here, we save this amount. It means we reduce up to here. Here, just let me see the units, 15 million. We're talking about million ton of coil, of carbon dioxide. So any improvement to our technology, to our way of utilizing these, to improve the efficiency, to go toward renewable energy, to look to energy conservation, energy efficiency, sustainable energy, all this will make difference. And yeah, you can see here one improvement occurred in our application to become combined heat CHP, combined heat and power, will reduce this amount of carbon dioxide. To be done through whom? Engineer is the main, let me say, people who can make this difference. Also, carbon dioxide emission can be reduced sharply by using, let me say, alternatives, renewable energy alternative. As example, this is the actual emission. Because we use nuclear or hydro or bio or wind, these are reduced. These part already cutted. This is how much we reduce when we use wind power or bioenergy or hydropower. So it's coming to help. There is a debate between and argument between scientists regarding are we behind this problem, the creation of global warming and climate change because of our CO2 emission? Is there any, let me say, justification or let me say evidences about this? Yeah, if we look in 2009, 39% of the atmospheric CO2, okay, is happen in the atmosphere. Okay, you may look to this 30% is a huge amount of carbon dioxide, tons of carbon dioxide emitted. Cannot come suddenly by coincidence. It's supposed to be justified here by our increase in industrial applications. Also, the CO2, they measure the CO2 observed by atmosphere and by the ocean, and they found equivalent, and they make their calculation. They found approximately equivalent to the amount of CO2 emitted because equivalent to coal, oil, and natural gas burned since the 19th century. Another evidence is the observed progressive deflation in carbon 13 show that most of the CO2 coming from fossil fuel burning of fossil fuel and deforestation. This is another evidence that it's coming from our activities. Now, our global system have 5 subsystems. These subsystems is the atmosphere, ocean, snow and ice cover, land surface, and vegetation cover. Now, any change in these subsystems will create a lot of problems. Cyclone, dust storm, let me say, dry in some places, rain and flood in some places, tsunami, volcano, and so many other problems create. In also they change the livelihood in many places on this planet. What can we do? Do fix, quick fix, or be initiative, or wait and see? I think inventive is the main target to solve this problem. Just waiting or try to look to direct fixing for the, let me say, short period is not a solution. We talk about this in sustainability, if you remember the scenarios we are facing. Okay, now climate treaties policy, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, which we call it UNFCCC, which is a conference, let me say, occurred in Rio de Janeiro by United Nations in 1992 to discuss the problem of global warming and climate change. And when they come up with, it's a serious problem, and they need to stabilize the greenhouse concentration in the atmosphere below a specific level. Okay, and there is 192 nations signed this, let me say, protocol. And later, in 1997, in Kyoto, in Japan, another conference, which is, let me say, the updated one of UNFCCC, which is called Kyoto Protocol. 178 countries have ratified this protocol, this agreement. Okay, it's not anymore only serious problem. They here put a target. They put target these the main, let me say, carbon dioxide, the main gases affecting the global warming and climate change. These are CO2 and 2O, the six gases I mentioned earlier this session. And they focus more on carbon dioxide. Their target is to reduce the carbon dioxide below 1990 by 5%. This is their level. Many countries ratify this, but as I mentioned, 178. US did not ratify this because it's reflected on cost and economic, and they didn't ratify this, unfortunately. Now, but they make a target in Europe, as example, they make a target to reduce below 8% below 1990, and this needs a lot of work, a plan for 4 years plan, and so on. Okay. Now, this reduction, they try to put a target, few countries representing the main countries who emit carbon dioxide. There are 38 countries. Europe, as example, 15 countries, they supposed to reduce below 8%. US supposed to reduce 7, but they did not ratify. So there is no, let me say, steps in this direction occurred. Japan and Canada, also Australia, Russia, and different countries. The other countries who are not emitting above the limit, okay, they are not included in this and to be considered when they reach this limit. I remember, sorry, in December 2011 in Durban, South Africa, they revised the Kyoto Protocol to extend it another 4 years from 2013 to 2017. And they keep, because this is the main, let me say, protocol the people are following in the world, okay, globally. This is some photos from that. I was watching this in TV. Also, European emission in 2005, based on Kyoto Protocol, they need to make a work frame and steps in the right direction to specify how they can apply Kyoto Protocol targets and objectives. Um, they look to reduce their carbon dioxide emission, so they apply a permission if you, for greenhouse gases. I mean, they make a regulation. If you want to have a company, as example, you need to apply for permissions, like apply for permission for electricity, water, and so on. Okay, and they need to check from the emitted loads already, the companies and factories, and they retire the allowance after each of end of each year. Okay. Still with EU emission trading system, between 2008 to 2015, the second phase, they check and they look to reduce the emission, okay, allowance for emission below 200 million ton carbon dioxide, okay, a year. And any company emit more than this, they have to pay. And companies reduce, let me say, their carbon dioxide below the level they earn revenue, let me say. And they mainly focus on reduction on power and heating production. Emission trade sector also, they check the energy industry, steel industry, construction industry, paper and forest industry. Uh, they account in Europe 12,000 plants to be targeted to make sure that they work according to the new level, and they have to reduce their carbon dioxide. They make a plan, they make a target, meters start to be installed in these companies, and they follow up. Example about the emission trading effect, fuel price. It's affect the, by the way, it's extra cost added on these companies, so they need to consider it. Example is here, as you can see here, the fuel type, coal, peat, wood, and so on. Let's call example. The CO2 emission in emission per megawatt hour. Let me say its present cost is from 6 to 8 euro per megawatt hour. If they emit more than the required one, then extra 5% will be added, or depend. It's like or 20% or 50%. The cost will increase. It's similar to the if you know the bill for electricity bill. It come as example from 0 to 3,000 kilowatt hour. You paid in the past it was 10 paise. From 3,000 to 5,000 kilowatt hour, you pay this amount higher, and so on. They make it like a scale, a category. They want to affect by this trading the demand and the supply through CO2 prices. They have policy, they have regulation, and people need to follow this. In Oman, we don't have still greenhouse gas, let me say, policy and taxes, or let me say VAT. The country the enhancement occurred and because of this increase the utilization factors, and the one funding source of new investment is the emission allowance of CO2 emission energy sources. As I mentioned, the goal is to reduce the CO2, but and they make a market, like a market for prices for CO2. You sell your CO2, you buy CO2, and so on. Okay. Now, part of the Kyoto mechanism is the CDM. CDM is a clean development mechanism. Clean development mechanism is mean they have some countries it's difficult to reduce their carbon dioxide because it's costly. So what they do, they try to have a joint project in another countries who have less carbon dioxide and try to reduce their share through this project. While additionality is a crucial feature of CDM carbon project, that establish additional incentive for emission carbon dioxide reduction credit. While joint implementation is, it mean some countries encourage to be have a joint, let me say, implementation of greenhouse reduction. As example, the country number one need to reduce, let me say, 40%. But in their country is costly. What they do, they have they go to non-industrialized countries and they try to invest there to reduce the carbon this 40% in the other country. For climate credit, carbon credit they call it, emission reduction unit, ERU. They want to make a unit for carbon emission. So they choose 1 ton of carbon dioxide equivalent reduced. This is their ERU. Another one is certified emission reduction, which is related to the CDM. Now, what are the global scenario for energy use? The global scenario up to 2030, the oil will keep increasing, coal and gas mainly, okay, especially for transportation. And this consumption go for different sectors. Example of these sectors and mainly is the forest and metal industry and transportation, as you can see here, transportation, this one, this one, this one. So any improvement will make difference. You see here the UNFCCC, they want to stabilize the greenhouse gases in their plan is you stabilize them rather than it keep going. You see these lines, this line and this line, rather than it go up, it will reduce starting from 2018, 17, 18, and these are the two scenarios they put to reduce by 550 part per million stabilization or 450 part per million stabilization. They want to reduce it and they start working on this. Renewable energy came to help. As you can see, hydropower, we discussed it. We discussed the bioenergy, different type. We discussed wind power. We discussed solar energy. Now, another part, which is represent the last part, is carbon capture and storage. Carbon capture and storage. You know that the idea is to mitigate, to reduce, to attenuate the carbon dioxide. How? By observing it from the main emitted places or point, from fossil fuel, as example, power plant, and they save it under the ground or in caves or in water in different way. This is the idea, capture them. Now, how we capture them? Three methods mainly to capture them. Post composition, I mean before we burn, after we burn the fuel, we capture it as example from chimney of the power plant. We try to capture it and save it in different way. or pre-composition. It's mainly applied in fertilizer. They try to separate H2 and CHO4, and then from fossil fuel mainly, and they separated by gasifier into CO and H2, and CO then shifted to CO2, and then take it, and then they can deal with it in exhaust or stream. Another method is oxy fluid composition. Rather than they burn the fossil fuel with air, they burn it with oxygen, and this way they reduce let me say, the carbon dioxide emission. Then next we come to the storage of this carbon. After we collect it from the points, we store it. Either we store it as a gas in a caves or a deep geological formation, or as a liquid in the ocean, or as a solid under the ground in a container, or let me say in a hole. Because this is the story of carbon dioxide. You can see here the carbon dioxide coming from these sources: factories, industry, power plants, and so mainly. And then it's captured here, and then they can store it under the ground here, or they put it in a ship, and then they put it under the ocean, or directly under the ocean by pipes, or they try to put it under the ground here, injected, and they sometimes use it in geothermal applications to inject to get the heat, or to produce the injected to get the oil in oil field. I will stop here, and I hopefully I deliver the all the points required to meet our learning course learning outcome. Okay, good luck in next let me say endeavors, and in next semesters, and hope you will do well in the final exam. Bye bye.